Good evening, dear viewers. Good evening. I am Dr. Mojibur Daftori. Warm welcome to London studio of British Bangla News. Hope you all are fine during this global corona pandemic. This program is broadcasting live from Facebook and YouTube channels of British Bangla News. Today, our subject is Interfaith Dialogue for Global Peace. Today, my guest is Mr. Ilari Rantakari. Welcome, Mr. Ilari Rantakari.
Thank you very much. Great
Yes,
pleasure.
Mr. Ilari Rantakari is an ambassador emeritus of Finnish Ministry for Foreign Affairs. And before I go to the program, to the questions directly, I would like to tell something about Mr. Ilari Rantakari's background. He's a career diplomat and he's our distinguished guest. And also, after his background, I will shed light on the issues what we will discuss today for small time. Then we will directly go to the questions. So, Mr. Rantakari has had a rich and colorful life, from serving as a diplomat in many parts of the world, including Asia and Africa, to leading management positions in private and public sector. He has had worked for around 2 decades as a diplomat and ambassador. He earned his degrees from Helsinki School of Economics in 1969. In his career, he has held various positions as a diplomat. For example, he was the director of Department of Development Cooperation, Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland during 1986 to 1989. He also served as ambassador to Zambia and accredited to a number of Southern African countries, ambassador to Tanzania, ambassador to Department of Africa, ambassador to special envoy to the foreign minister, and ambassador for Helsinki process on globalization and democracy. He was also ambassador of good governance and anti-corruption political department of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, an ambassador, Finland's focal point of the United Nations Alliance for Civilization. And he was also the ambassador of Helsinki process, among many other roles he played. His other responsibilities include he is the president of Lovisa Peace Forum Committee since 2008, and he was also the president of Union of Civil Servants of Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland, President Forum for Culture and Religion, one organization, a famous organization called Focus, and trustee the Refugee Council of Finland, trustee Finnish Missionary Society, and chair International Committee of Forum of Religions in Finland. So he has very rich experience as an ambassador and ambassador of peace, development, and harmony, so to speak. Before we go to our program, I will shed light on this issue, what we are going to talk with the Honorable Ambassador. History of the world is, as it is, we know, is generally documented as history of conflicts and wars. There are bloodsheds, burning of people alive in the name of religion, culture, and identities. So historically, we have seen time and again this kind of things. The question is religion a matter of spirituality or politics? Pundits find this quite baffling that they cannot sometimes separate these two things. Politics is a nasty word in Bangladesh and South Asia to a certain extent, and also in some other parts of the world. So the question is politics about power, openness, decency, tolerance to others, and cosmopolitanism, or is it a matter of uh, matter of matter of fighting each other? This is the question. There are two types of people in this world we can remember. One type of people are open-minded people, other are closed-minded people. Open-minded people see a half glass of water as full, and they are optimistic about the future in the given situation, while closed minded people see the glass half empty. they resort to hatred and violence to the perceived others. So, generally speaking, it's a matter of mindset, and many factors build up this mindset. It's not just one factor that builds it. Positive mindset is essential for building bridges, not only in community but also in the broader world. This is more important in time of excesses done in the name of religion in Europe and elsewhere. Charlie Hebdo attack in 2015 and Muhammad cartoon in French school by a teacher in school and in France, and also beheading of the school teacher by a terrorist in recent time also raises serious question about the nature of religion, what it is, what should be the level of tolerance. So as a result of this, there was mass demonstration in Turkey, Pakistan, Middle Eastern countries, as well as Bangladesh. Some leaders in Asia and non-state actors are using this even to polarize societies further for political gains. Uh, some seems to be ruthless opportunists. But there are exceptions to this too among political leaders as well as among religious communities. Our guest today, Ambassador Emeritus Mr. Ilari Rantakari, has wide experience as a diplomat, as a person, as a civil society leader of Finland that defy such divisive rhetoric in the name of religion. He builds bridges across religions and cultures to highlight our common humanity, our connectedness as fellow human beings and global citizens. My first question to our distinguished guest today is, how are you spending time during this global corona pandemic, Mr. Rantakari?
Thank you. This is a very good example, Dr. Mojibur, that we are here at our computer and having questions and answers and debate online. So quite a lot of time and energy has gone into the online discussions and contacts and so forth. But fortunately, here in Finland, we haven't had that bad pandemic yet. Of course, it's at the moment also the second wave is ongoing, but at least you can take a walk or cycle or go to the forest and so forth. So I have been reading, I have been online, I have been walking, hiking, cycling, and having some exercise outside. Maybe that's the most essential part. Of course, some visits to my cottage. In Finland we have these summer cottages or free time holiday cottages. So that I have done, and also gone to Lapland. My wife comes from the north, so I have had the possibility to visit also the north. So I think this is the most.
Thank you, Mr. Rantakari. So please tell us about your ideals of Finnishness and internationalism as a messenger of peace and harmony, how they complement and support each other. Finnishness and internationalism.
Yes. It's not our choice where we are born. It depends on our parents and so forth. So I was born here in Finland, and luckily so. But from very early days, I have been interested that what is this world like, and other people who are far away or closer or far away, and those differences, because you see, we are one race, one human race. So I think for me it was very natural, and fortunately my parents and also sort of encouraged me to visit early days, I mean, neighboring countries and to travel abroad and to work and to study and so forth. So then I realized that, you see, this world is in a way for us, and the boundaries are only boundaries which we build. Of course, it's natural that there are certain, I mean, like countries or cultures, but they should only sort of, the borders should be only for that they can be crossed, and we can learn from each others. So this has been my, from very early days, interest, at least to learn. And as you said in your introduction, that there have been a lot of conflicts, and I was also born after the big conflict, which we call the Second World War, and of course our own wars, even with our big neighbor. So it was just natural to think of what to do that we could avoid such experiences, and that, you see, well, killing and destruction, because there shouldn't be any need for that if you have a, I mean, if you understand that the whole world is one human race.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Rantakari. My next question is, who or what inspired you to become a highly successful career of diplomacy, development, and peace? What was the inspiration in your childhood or at some other stage?
Well, I would say I was born in a small, actually a small village or municipality, but one thing which has been wonderful in Finland is that we have had, even in a small municipalities, very good libraries. So the library in my municipality was a very important sort of source of inspiration. I mean, and those books about the world, I was always interested in other countries and so forth. But also my parents and my mother and parents were encouraging, and even sort of sending me and my sisters also to visit other places. So that was inspiration, but also some visitors, like you know that from Finland we have had close links through missionaries in Namibia, for instance, or before it was Namibia, I mean 150 years ago it started. So there were visitors from Africa, or there were visitors from Hungary in Europe, or visitors from Japan, because there were also some missionaries, for instance, to Japan. So these experience in the small were sort of giving a booster to find out what you can do, and is there something you could do to learn yourself, but hopefully also contribute to the peace and to the well-being of not only our nation but the whole humankind.
Yeah, thank you. So please tell us about the Big Mosque project in Helsinki you initiated back in 2016 or 2017, something like that. What was the idea behind it and why it didn't materialize?
Well, when I returned from Africa, let's say at the end of the last millennium, just to start this new millennium, Finland has been pretty homogeneous until let's say 1980s. Of course, we have had our immigrants from Russia. We have had our Tatar population, also as Muslims. and many others, but pretty homogeneous. But then that migration started, and more, for instance, Muslim background people came, and well, many of them were refugees, as you know, refugees and asylum seekers, and so I was very keen to know how they sort of integrate. That's not a very good word, but I mean, we don't have the better, integrate, and so that they are appreciated, their faith, their religion, their culture. And then it was quite obvious that the growing Muslim population, there was only actually one mosque, wooden mosque, which the Tatars built in Järvenpää, in one city not far away from Helsinki, and then the Muslim population growing did not have their own, let's say, central mosque. And I had some friends and some colleagues with whom we organized quite a lot of seminars, discussions, debates, and then came to that conclusion that a mosque, or rather also an interfaith education center and the service center would be required. And the initial sort of idea was already 2013, when there was an Islam Expo in Finland, and then there were a number of delegations also from other countries, including Bahrain, a small country, many others. But the Bahrain was a very interesting delegation, because they wanted to know a lot what kind of country Finland is. And they studied not only during the expo, but also during the coming visits, and found out that that we have a freedom of expression, we have freedom of religion, we have a welfare society for all, and also tolerance. But then they found out that there was not proper mosque, or this Muslim background population did not have that wealth or income, and they were ready to support establishing a central, I would say, we talked about Oasis Center, which would be mostly a service center to meet with other groups, and also have a central mosque for Muslims, but also for others, and then offer training and possibilities of meeting and discussing whatever. So that was the idea, and then we approached the city of Helsinki. The city of Helsinki was also interested, and actually we got plot alternatives, which we should, together with the city officials, one very central place, and then it was actually the Kingdom of Bahrain which was ready to finance that investment without any sort of conditions, except that because they feel that Muslim population could live well in Helsinki, and they would deserve to have their own mosque, but also center for services, and I mean to meeting people and educating both, I mean, Muslims and both other groups. And so this was actually discussed a number of times, but then the media and in the social media and elsewhere, there were so many fears. I mean, they were not based on anything else except prejudices or that, you see, we import terrorists, you know, that debate, or we import something, such kind of Islam, which is, for instance, in Saudi Arabia or elsewhere, and that kind of debate. And then when we had negotiated everything ready for the city of Helsinki, and consulted also the political groups, but many of the political groups, as you know, they listen very carefully, politicians, that what the people think, so that they can be re-elected, and so it was very difficult for a number of parties or in the city of Helsinki, and they were not ready to in one committee to recommend it to the council, to the Helsinki City Council. And then at the end, everything was negotiated and agreed, and the Helsinki City would have been involved in that foundation, Oasis Foundation, which would be the actor. But this one committee, which is the planning, we presented it there, and they did not sort of they did not agree, and then we thought that it's better not to get the negative answer from the city council, and so we withdraw that application for that plot. Okay. But so it has been now dormant, but it's not dead. The idea and the plan. Okay. But well, also one reason was that, to be quite honest, the Muslim community in Finland, the very big majority was very favorable and welcoming. Okay. But, well, sorry to say, but some of the religious leaders, yeah, Muslim religious leaders, and others, I don't know why, they did not like it, and there wasn't a kind of sort of joint will, if you like, to do it. Some were fearing that, that takes something from them, or they were not offered such positions because what to offer. But it's not dead, but it's dormant.
Yeah, hopefully your dream will come true. Yeah. And my next question is, what are the main barriers, in your opinion, towards building bridges between religions?
To build
bridges between religions.
Oh, very good question. Well, I think we tend to have different interpretations, even of the Holy Scriptures, whether in Bible or in Quran or in maybe in Torah or other world religions, about this sort of primary faith, if you like. I mean this, but my conviction and perspective is that actually all these monotheistic religions, but actually all world religions, they have a very, very similar approach or message, and that is which is also reflected in this golden rule: do others what you would like others to do to you.
Exactly.
Or if you use Christian way, that you should love your neighbor as yourself. But I mean, there are similar expressions in most of the world religions. And so I would like to say that since we are here, I mean, this is not our final destination as faith-inspired people. So we have been given this life, which is just a temporary life. I mean, it ends approximately maximum 80 years or a little bit beyond or less. But we should be able to coexist and to not only to tolerate each others, because we are sort of this common human race, and our task here is to sort of cultivate. I mean, that's also in the Bible. I mean, you should cultivate the earth and to live and enjoy life, even though you are not sort of perfect. As a human being, you are not perfect, and you are not God, or you are not even godlike. But I think that if you are very, you mentioned about this openness or closeness of different people. So you can also sort of reflect on these important scriptures in a very different way. And so my understanding is that we are called to love each others and not only tolerate the difference. I mean, of course, we have to have a tolerance, but I think the tolerance is not a sufficient word, because you see, we are called to respect each others. We may disagree, I mean, as an opinion or as an interpretation, but nevertheless, I think all these scriptures, I mean, say that, I mean, we should try to listen. I think we should have big ears rather than big mouth. But sometimes, and it's the fear. It's a fear which takes over very often if you have a different, I mean, belief or religion. But if you are open and ready to listen, so it's a wonderful way of learning, and you might also sort of strengthen your own faith and understand it more broadly and more deeply. But since we are very human, so it seems to be too easy to enter into a conflict and war, even though we always learn that never more a war. And then when there is one or two generations, easily goes to that. But so it's maybe, I mean, fear, and then that you are not open to different views and to appreciate. Not that you have to sort of accept or change your own view, but I think this is one way which I could.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rantakari, for beautifully explaining it. And some people perceive West as a geographical entity, and some perceive it as an ideal worth pursuing. How do you see the East and the West? What do they represent to you?
Well, when I was born here in Finland, so we have always thought that we belong to the West. But I mean, of course, that's an interpretation of our experience. We have lived centuries and even thousands of years with a big neighbor in the east, but not only with positive experiences. I mean, conflicts already, not only these wars when we were independent, but before. But we have had also actually a beautiful time. We were a part of the West until 1809, and then we became the Grand Duchy of Russia for about 100 years. So we have been here in between, in a way, of the East and West. But since we have this history, and now it becomes a little bit also, if not religious, but you see this Protestant history. It was the Catholic Church in Europe, but also in the world. And then in the 16th century, there was this one gentleman, theologian Martin Luther in Germany.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you see, we had a number of scholars who studied in Germany, of course, in other countries also in Europe, mostly in Europe. And so our Reformation, I mean, this Protestant Reformation came through also on the 16th century. And so I think these ideals of human rights, the equality of citizen, and this call, but also that it doesn't come from only from the above. I mean, a representative of God or Pope, but you are also called yourself to and you see what was the result that also this ABC, I mean the language and the local language of people became I mean in the divine services, but also you see written language, and this teaching of that, you see, that which continued until the 19th century by the church. So it's a strong and somehow we have felt that this freedom has been more in the West. So you asked whether it is a geographic. I think it is more a kind of historical and this kind of experience which has been digested over the centuries. But then it has become of political issue. But I mean, we have always had this understanding of also the East, and I mean how to sort of manage to with these differences of systems and even religions and other cultures.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't know if you got an answer.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's beautifully said. So my next question is, there had been Charlie Hebdo attack and killing in 2015 regarding Prophet's cartoon, Muhammad's cartoon, and there is recent beheading of a school teacher in France for showing Muhammad cartoon in a school. And secular state of France defied the religious extremist and publicly showed the cartoon in question. Do you find any problem with this kind of approach of asserting religion and secularism?
Yes, I find many sort of questions, because you see what has happened in my view, in France, in many other countries where people have. I don't mind that. I mean, the state. I feel also that the state should be secular. The state is not religious. It has to be secular, but the state, where you have freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and freedom of beliefs, human rights, rule of law, everything. But then you should understand that if there are others which are maybe initially minorities, like the Muslim community in France, for instance. So you should. Okay, let me put it very directly that to say that everyone should be friends, or like one model Finnish or Swedish or whatever is a wrong approach. That you should appreciate that people have different cultures, different religions, and that you are not sort of pressing everyone to come with a mainstream Finnish or mainstream French or wherever. So, because you see, this demand or request that you should be you should appreciate these cultural differences, and that these different identities, cultures, as long as they are not violent or they are not threatening neighbors, should be appreciated, and not allow such ghettos to be built. What has taken place in France, but in many European countries, and it has been a wrong approach. But I'm not saying it's the interpretation that what secular state means. Secular state means that you appreciate all differences, cultural, ethnic, religious differences, and let them flourish as long as they are not criminal or violent.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ambassador Rantakari. What are the key challenges to tolerance in Finland, Europe, and the world today?
What are the key challenges
to tolerance?
I think it is really that you see there are a lot of opinion by the populists, but not only the populists, even very, very, how should I say, educated or wise, or at least people who sort of very easily go into the trap that you see Islam, for instance, or any other religion belief is different, is dangerous, or and do not understand that religion has always been misused by those who are in power, and that's the danger always. And I think as a faith person, if you like, you should be always careful with those who are in power. Not that I mean you have to have these people who also, I mean, want to have power, but I mean for the benefit of the community and for the people, and then we should have a different approach towards terrorism. I mean, not terrorism. Terrorism is, of course, it's a criminal. It's violent, and it is, I mean, created by misusing religion. So what I would say that the key challenge is to educate our citizen about, for instance, especially now about Islam, and what are the objectives, what are the key teachings, but at the same time understand that there are these minorities who misuse, and that has to be, but I mean not by sort of condemning the religion or those people, those 99%, 99 point, for instance, Muslim people who are against terrorism and violence and criminality and would like to live in peace with others. I don't mean to be naive, but you have to analyze and make a difference. How these teachings are misused.
Yeah, thank you, Ambassador Rantakari. I think that it is important to note that every country is not Finland, and there is lack of education, lack of literacy, and lack of quality of education in certain countries, in many Muslim majority countries, and there is lack of democratic experiments. They have lack of experience. So, and together with those, there is this increased kind of the social media abuse of social media has created lots of difficulties in countries like Bangladesh in recent time, Pakistan, Turkey, and elsewhere. Thank you so much for your valuable opinion, Mr. Rantakari. So my next question is it too utopian or romantic to imagine abolition of war like that of the institutions of slavery and colonialism? If so, where we should start acting in the first place?
My answer is that no, it's not impossible. But as I think mentioned already earlier, that you see somehow we tend to forget these bitter experiences of conflicts and wars, and also these people in power usually also. I don't mean they're like, I think I would say that Finland, for instance, we have not wanted any war, but we have I would like to say that there is a possibility, but it requires a lot of education, a lot of teaching, and a lot of analysis and well-argumented debate to sort of understand that actually there is no justification to enter into a war. I mean, a violent. Okay, in the theological or religious debate, of course, there are these issues like in Protestant, that is there a sort of justified war, which means that that you have the right to defend your society or these values and democratic principles. My views go there that one has to be also prepared, because we live in a unfortunately okay, sinful if we use this religious, or that that we are not sort of perfect and world. So there is this risk to sort of to be in a situation where you don't have other ways. I feel very much that, for instance, in our country, for instance, our Winter War, I mean, in the beginning of the so-called World War, Second World War, and these wars, they were that we couldn't prevent, and then we have been quite sort of strong that you see our society is something to be defended. And from very often it has been the threat from the East. So I don't have a sort of final, but I have that what we should do, and that is the peace education. I mean, not only the naive that everything, but to understand that we have to learn from each others, we have to be able to cooperate, and we have to learn that, you see, we have to perhaps also you see to invest something, which means time, energy, money for peace building, and but it's very difficult in the current situation, as we seem to be almost entering into a new era of Cold War between the super nations, and hopefully we get such leaders which do understand that. But what I mean to say that you see all these agreements, for instance, nuclear testing, nuclear arsenal, these missile treaties, they are all coming to an end. So we have had this 30, 40 years of very positive, and now it seems to be that we are entering into a new area. I don't want to call it a new type of Cold War yet. Cold War meaning that it is not, we are not fighting with weapons, but even diplomatically, and in the, and then that you see when these big nations think that no, we do things only bilaterally. We don't need to follow any agreed rules, which we have in the UN, United, excuse me, in United Nations, in regional organizations. We have been very successful over the half a century, and now it looks very difficult. Fortunately, as I said, it's a kind of only a kind of Cold War, and hopefully not into a real. But we need a lot of emphasis and how should I say, peace education.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Rantakari. I think what you told is beautifully told, and I would like to add that together with this accommodation of new emerging powers within the UN system, I think those could really prevent further conflicts in the world, together with this existing practicing tying with the existing treaties. Thank you. And my next question is, do you have any suggestion to immigrants in Finland or in Europe how to better integrate with the host society?
Well, I I have appeals to the leadership of the countries that that also the situation of migrants should be taken into account much more profoundly, instead of this populism, which seems to be sort of gaining ground in many European countries. So there is so the migrants themselves, of course, you know very well that sometimes the language of a host country might be difficult or yes, a bit strange, like Finnish to many others. But I think the language, learning the language is very important, and gives them much more access to jobs and different positions. So I think that is something, but also that enough possibilities are offered, and very often we forget, for instance, when we had this in Europe, a lot of immigrants coming in 2015 and before and after that, what kind of big capacity comes, I mean, which our society, I mean, we are, for instance, calculating, and of course it's costly to educate everybody, or an engineer or a medical doctor. And then when you receive, or any other profession, for instance, we received in Finland a lot of refugees, asylum seekers from Iraq, which had a pretty good education. I mean, either at least second level or even academic level, and we have not sort of appreciated that another society, another country has provided that. So it's a capital. So this language training, integration measures is only a very, very minor cost, because this cost issue is very much sort of taken into discussion.
Yeah.
And then I think as a migrant, or everyone should be very open to invite and to get sort of to be eager to meet people, even in their own neighborhood, in the same house or multi-story building or society, and so forth. Of course, in Finland, maybe we have not been so very, very welcoming, but I mean, if somebody really wants to learn or to be sort of friends, or at least, I mean, so it shouldn't be too difficult.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rantakari. My next question is, there are many highly educated immigrants in Finland, even with Finnish higher degrees, but there are problems with some hiring agencies, different organizations. They don't hire the immigrants, even though there are clearly written in Finnish government that immigrants should be given some priority to certain extent, to certain level. Do you have any suggestion to those bosses in different organizations for hiring immigrants?
Yes, and also you see there are a number of companies, for instance, in trading, in many areas. I mean, construction, real estate business. You see, these company leaders should come forward with the positive experiences they have had about the migrant population and employees. But then, for instance, it has been sort of studied that if you have in Finnish context, if you have a very, very different name and you apply, for instance, a public space or in the company or wherever, so that there has been a preference to sort of interview those which have such a name. And here is one proposition which I think is gaining a sort of space, and that is that actually actually, you see, in applications, you wouldn't need to give your your actual name. You would be just applicant XYZ, and I know that it is challenging, but I mean this is one way, at least in the first screening, or to just sort of concentrate on the, let's say, of course there is the education and experience and so forth, but that's one way. But I think it's a continuous education again of the leadership, and I think in the business sector this is changing.
Yeah.
And it should change also in the public service. And there are also measures to do it. And there are different, I mean, like cities or municipalities which have a very, very sort of transparent and good way. But then, unfortunately, also a lot of prejudices still.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Rantakari. So my next question is, do you have any, you're a successful person, very successful person in your career as a diplomat and well-known person, respected person in Finland. Do you have some career tips for youths and students who are listening this program or watching this program from around the world? Do you have some career tips for them, how to do better in career?
Well, I think most of people have, you see, they have some idea what they would like to do, or what is the area where they would like to work, because at least we have to yet get our our income and livelihood by working, or at least big majority, and well, that you see, you just follow your, that you see, if you are interested in some subject, so be courageous and to find possibilities, I mean studying possibilities or other, also I would say that whatever work gives you also wisdom or experience. So initially, it's good to do anything. I started with in the construction business. I mean, just as a helper, or in the agricultural business, or in a hospital. carrying patients, and so that you see, you have a sort of from different sort of areas also some experience, and then you can understand that. But then, of course, if you have a certain, I had this interest that you see, I want to learn about other countries and cultures, and then I had this interest of what means development and what should be done to develop. I mean, develop in many ways as a person, but also as a country, as an economy, as a sort of high education country. I don't think I have other advice, but I mean, be courageous and patient. Courageous and patient. And patience, I mean, there are, of course, I mean, it's even though you have a strong will, it doesn't always produce results immediately. But it's also, you see, if you're done in good faith, and so I'm sometimes using this word of, Mother Teresa, who lived in Calcutta, and who was a nun, or in a nunnery as a teacher, and then found out that, you see, outside there are these suffering people in the streets, and then sort of found out that her vocation is actually there, and so she was encouraging people to do something for the vulnerable, and that gives you satisfaction.
Yes.
So also keeping that in mind, that that you you can maybe also be helpful to some others, not only to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Rantakari. We are near end of this program now. So before we go, I have the last question to you. Currently, we are seeing increasing religious intolerance in the world, and there is some rising illiberalism in terms of democratic practices all over the world. So what do you see the future of the world in terms of religious tolerance? Are you optimistic or pessimistic?
I want to be optimistic, and it is also one thing that you see. Really, I'm returning back to what you said in the beginning. That how do you see the water in the glass, half bottle or half glass, so that one could build on what is there, and I think we do understand that the equality issue, the actions against marginalization, and the actions for better future for all is something, and you see, these are not easily achieved unless there is a sort of participation of people, and there I mean that both, this democracy, not only the elections, but elections in municipalities, in the country, presidential, but also that you sort of call people to work together to get these ideas together. And of course, there are also these positive experiences. If you have a strong will, you can even demonstrate, not violently, but demonstrate. And so I have a strong belief that people do realize that it is in their own interest and the interest of their communities and the whole society, if there are these participatory ways and means, and democratic elections, and this kind of behavior, and that should be also then linked to UN, which has been a little bit sidelined, and to this rule-based agreements, treaties, and others, that they benefit all, not only some, and especially for smaller nations and for smaller communities. This is very important. So I I'm optimistic that people do realize that this is possible for them, but of course they have to be committed and act accordingly.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Ilari Rantakari. I take this opportunity to thank Your Excellency, Mr. Ilari Rantakari, Ambassador Emeritus of Finnish Ministry for Foreign Affairs, for giving your valuable time to British Bangla News and its audience. Please stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and you
Yeah.
too, and all the viewers.